Danhausen undefeated? I'm sorry, Saudi Arabia. All that and more in our review of SmackDown in a couple of minutes.
This is gonna be a good one.
Welcome to the Top Rope Take. I'm Ryan Arnold. The show arrives with Cody arriving outside in the backstage parking lot area where he's met by Nick Aldis, who pretty much tells him that he cannot touch Pat McAfee at all. We then enter Jelly Roll, who says that he doesn't work here, he can touch him. Rhea then comes out to the ring and calls out Jade Cargill. I thought we was about to get another brawl, but then Io comes out and says she wants a match with Jade Cargill tonight. Out come Aldis, and he makes it official. Next, we had a match between Bayley and Alexa, who were accompanied by Charlotte and Lyra Valkyria, of course. There was a decent match. There was a nasty DDT that Alexa gave Bayley, but it turns out it was supposed to be a suplex, and Bayley looked like she landed wrong, but she seems to be okay. Other than that, it was a good match, and Alexa picked up the victory. Did WWE just drop this multiple personalities gimmick that they had with Bayley? I was kind of liking where it was going, but I haven't really seen much of it. Maybe it'll culminate at WrestleMania. I don't know. Next, we had a backstage segment between Carmelo Hayes and Matt Cardona, where they're talking about his injury, and then enter Trick Williams and Lil Yachty. Cardona pretty much says that he's tired of guests coming on these shows and running their mouths, which I really liked because Lil Yachty to me is just annoying. And we find out that we're probably going to get Trick v Cardona later on in the night. We then had a little video package of a promo from Drew McIntyre about Jacob Fatu. I thought it was actually pretty good. He talked a lot about Fatu's time in jail and how, he was feeding his kids. It was just really well packaged and I really liked it. We then had something happen that I've been waiting to happen for a while. We had the MFTs backstage and Jacob Fatu. They kind of had a little talk back and forth, and then Solo said that Tama Tonga was going to face Jacob Fatu, and you could tell Tama Tonga was not about it, didn't want to, and he kind of told Jacob, you know what it is. So I still think there's going to be something happening with this group here soon, maybe at Mania. Maybe Tonga stepping away from the NFTs and helping Roman win the title or something. I know I'm reaching with that one, but what do you guys think? Put a comment down below. We then had a quick little video promo from Royce Keys that says he's going to have a match tonight, which I'm glad. I've been waiting for this to happen, and I'm surprised they didn't make him go through NXT and just put him straight on the main rosters. I can't wait to see this match. We then had Pat McAfee finally arriving. I've been waiting for it to happen. He comes into contact with Jelly Roll backstage. They kind of get into it with a little shoving match, and Aldis tells Jelly Roll to pretty much back off, and Pat comes out to the ring. So Pat comes back out to the ring and immediately sends return fire to CM Punk. This part of the segment was the only part of the segment I thought was fantastic from Pat McAfee. He talked about the clothes that Punk was wearing, his jacket and his shirt, WWE merch, and when those checks come in from TKO, is he going to give it to the wrestling family that can't afford WrestleMania tickets, or is that money going into the I'm sorry Saudi Arabia account? That line was crazy. Like I said, this is probably the best part of Pat McAfee's segment on this whole entire show. He said instead of making change, CM Punk just rolls over like a little, He says the ticket sales are still down. He talked to Ram Trucks, and from now until the end of Monday Night Raw, they're going to have 25% off of all ticket sales. I was waiting to see if they were going to put the ticket sales into the storyline, and it looks like they went ahead and weaved it right in, which I thought was pretty clever. This is when the promo started to just basically suck, and then out comes Cody Rhodes. It looks like WWE are starting to lean into what the fans are saying about not wanting Pat to be the reveal and how it was bad. Cody says Pat needs to go back and tell the guy that sent him there, "Thank you, Daddy," which I thought was a pretty funny line. Cody then said the Attitude Era ended in 2002, and Randy was watching it back in high school. It was 30 years ago. And I didn't totally agree with that argument. Randy did join in 2002, which I already knew, but the Attitude Era didn't end till 2000 to 2002. So Randy wasn't in high school, I wouldn't think, but I don't necessarily agree with that comment. I think Randy came in right at the end of the Attitude Era. So, is what it is. Said that nobody wants to see Pat here and Pat needs to go home. Pat clapped back with the he's a fake dude. He's got the dyed hair, the spray tan, the fake teeth, the lispy lips, and the $10,000 suit that he wore because Ric Flair said that's the way it should be. Cody pretty much said that, Pat must have been high. He forgot that he was yeeting his brains out. He loves this business, or all of a sudden he hates this business. And that if Pat's tired, they can get Gunther to come out here and put him to sleep for good. which pretty clever Gunther mention. I liked it. Cody then went to walk out of the ring, and Pat had one of the best clapbacks. I thought it was pretty cool. Pat said that Cody is elite at running away with an AEW shout out, and then he threw the Stardust out there, and then he said if he was going back there to suck Triple H's butt, and that he was going to get deep into those cheeks, and that prompted Cody to turn around, take his stuff off, which Cody should have seen it coming. We all knew it was a trap. Goes back to the ring. Randy ends up showing up backstage. He beat up Jelly Roll, dragged Jelly Roll out there, and they jumped Cody Rhodes. Crowd was still chanting RKO even though they were both beating Cody down. I was doing some thinking maybe they brought in Pat McAfee because they knew the fans were going to hate it, and it was their attempt to try to get the fans back on Cody Rhodes' side because they've been heavily for Randy Orton winning this title. I don't know. What do you guys think? Drop comments down below. Just a thought that I had, but obviously it's still not working. And then Pat and Randy left the arena with Cody's title. I don't know what the deal with that is. This episode of the Top Rope Take is sponsored by Dubby. Focus energy drink that comes in many unique flavors. Enjoy the jitter-free, crash-free formula, free from artificial colors, dyes, sugars, and other BS ingredients. That's why us here at the Top Rope Take choose Dubby. Clean energy, none of those BS ingredients, and it's made right here in the USA. Dubby, be better. Miz and Kit Wilson then had a backstage segment with Nick Aldis talking about the ref last week where he couldn't count. Aldis told him it was a curse. And then surprisingly, and I got super excited about it, Aldis announced a match between Kit Wilson and Danhausen. Danhausen would have his first match tonight on SmackDown. So excited. We then had a match between Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga. It was a pretty good back and forth match. Drew ended up interfering after the match after Fatu won, which I figured was going to happen, and Drew just put an ungodly beating down on Jacob Fatu. He was bleeding, handcuffed him, drug him everywhere, hit him with chairs, claymored him. It was just, he just destroyed Jacob Fatu. It was a very good segment and a good build for their WrestleMania match. Then we had a little small backstage segment with R-Truth talking about ESPN. Turns out Damian Priest shows up. He was talking to Danhausen, and they kind of joked back and forth. It was a really funny segment. They talked about how Truth thought Danhausen was Asuka, and Truth was pretty much gaslighting Priest. No, I didn't. And then they both turned to look at Danhausen, and he vanished. Next, we had a small backstage segment immediately after that where Rhea was just beating the tar out of B-Fab and took her out. Thank you, Rhea. Sami Zayn then came out to the ring with, again, taboos. I thought this segment, his promo was trying to get the crowd back on his side. He talked about the people that didn't like him and the people that did like him. I like Sami Zayn. This promo was horrible. I think what he was trying to do didn't hit anywhere close to what he thought, and the crowd just heavily booed the entire time. That is until Trick Williams came out. Trick Williams came out again with Little Yachty, and man, Little Yachty is annoying. I feel like he ruins Trick Williams' entrance every time. Trick cut a little promo saying the crowd was just tired of hearing Sammy talk, and I'm telling you, Trick is going to pick up the W and take the title from Sammy at WrestleMania. We then had a match with Danhausen versus Kit Wilson. I liked their little, right before the commercial break, Danhausen had a little graphic and little sounds they put out. I thought that was pretty cool. They had a cool little segment where he cursed Kit Wilson while he's on the top rope and the pyro went off. I just wasn't expecting that. This match had a couple of cool little spots in it. Danhausen ends up picking up the win. The Miz tries to sneak up behind him to do a skull crushing finale. The lights go off and it comes back on, and Danhausen's running up the ramp trying to sneak out. I loved that he had his first match. 1-0 for Danhausen. He's officially undefeated, and I cannot wait to see more. And if you didn't catch it, I did, and I'm going to tell you. When they came out, they announced Danhausen's fighting out of, instead of saying like a city or a state, they said he was fighting out of 1311 Mockingbird Lane. And for those of you that don't know, that is the address for the Munsters. We then had a backstage segment where Jade I guess she's looking for Rhea, and finds Meechin beat up in the backstage, and she asked Mia who did it, and she said Rhea. And to close out the show, unfortunately, we had Jade Cargill versus Io Sky. It was a really good back and forth. Jade ends up getting a chair, Rhea ends up coming out, and they kind of like do this little dance where they go around each other, and then Jade leaves the ring, and SmackDown is over. I'm ready for Rhea to take this title off of Jade. If you're on the top rope with us, go ahead and do a frog splash off right on that subscribe button. Subscribe, like, comment, and share. We're on the road to 100 subscribers, and once we get there, we will be giving away to 3 lucky subscribers picked at random WWE autographed gear. It's either going to be a gear or a card or a title belt. We've got all that in stock and we're ready to go. So we'll see you guys next time. Subscribe.
This is gonna be a good one.